All right, 6:03, starting the committee of the whole. Start with pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible. Please do the roll call.
Mark,
Here.
Alderman Roll,
Here.
Alderman Johnson. Alderman Montoya. Alderman Rita,
Here.
Alderman Fairwell. Alderman McGee. Four here.
Need a motion to the minutes, video whole meeting, September 13th, 2023 is no motion. Motion called, on the question. Clerk, please do the roll call.
Alderman Carr,
Aye.
Alderman Roll,
Aye.
Alderman Montoya.
Aye.
Alderman Rita,
Aye.
Lori, aye.
Carries. Public comments. Is there any public comment? Public comment. Yeah.
Evening, everybody. My name is Tom Shepard, and for the last 15 years, I've organized Blessing of the Water at your beautiful waterfall on the Little Calumet Cowsack Channel. And I came here today to tell you that we had a delightful afternoon on August, I think it was August 28th. And we've been doing it for 15 years, except for those couple of COVID years when we had been interrupted. But we want to thank the city for their support and for the assistance that you gave us. And we had a great crowd out there once again this year. And I want to let everybody know behind me here that you have a beautiful, delightful spot out there on the river, the waterfall, and the property around there. And happy that the mayor is talking to the Water Reclamation District that actually owns the property about enhancing it, make it more accessible. And I was sitting at lunch today with somebody from the disability that's located over in Maureen's offices there. And we're talking about how the disabled are unable to access that, and it's unfortunate. Because we have a beautiful place out there, and it could be used for many things. I know you had the wonderful 4th of July. Well, it wasn't the 4th this year, was it? But you had that event out there and other things. And you could do much more just by making it more accessible and have the water reclamation come out there and put in some stairs and some more sidewalk access to it. So. And I want to thank Madam Clerk for reminding me that you had a meeting tonight. I saw her earlier today, and I want to take this opportunity to thank you all. That's all. Thank you.
Any other public comments? Any other public comments? Now I know we have a presentation from the Tree Initiative. Val, whoever wants to come up first.
I just would like to introduce Steve Lang from Great Lakes Urban Forestry. His company just completed our tree inventory, complete tree inventory for all city-owned trees. And he's going to give a recap of our executive report. Next step is going to be Now, there is a no match grant up to 100,000. And it will help with, training, salaries, and, reciprocal pruning. So, and that money needs to get, it's through the Inflation Reduction Act. So, that's next on the docket. And when we talk about, last, January, we had a tree town hall meeting where we invited, some of the partners that we worked with as well as residents, and we had a really good turnout. So I think we'll continue with that again this upcoming January. So thank you all for your time and, moving forward.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
I did receive a letter from Morton Arboretum. I should have read it into the record. I'll bring it to the next meeting, thanking us for our support. I believe we sent a letter of support for a grant and probably the same stuff you're just mentioning to apply for because there's money on the table. So I just got it today, so I forgot to bring it, but I'll read it into the record next meeting. Thank you. Next, we have business license health inspection ordinance. We tabled this to last cow for additional review by the alderman. Was there any questions or concerns since the last meeting?
Well, I will say since the last meeting, I met with the health inspector for the city. There were a few updates to this, nothing substantive, other than we did increase one of the annual fees for category 3 went from 300 to 100. And then I found out the municipalities that she compared
Oh, thank
her
you.
figures to, and Tinley, Robbins, Orland, and Oak Lawn.
All right, those are the questions asked last meeting. Is there any other issues? Otherwise, it'll be at the next city council meeting. All right, moving on, we have retiree health insurance. I know that there's been some changes since the last meeting also. I don't want to take this first, the attorney or Mark. Wants to give a
I can
synopsis?
handle it. All right, so basically what we're proposing here, as I said previously, is a combination of all the existing retiree health insurance ordinances into one ordinance that clarifies what all the prior ordinances said. So we're not changing anyone's benefits. We're simply putting all the ordinances together into one ordinance and clarify what the applicable insurance benefits are for retirees. We provided you guys with all of the ordinances as well, so you can see each of the ordinances has repealer paragraphs, meaning that if what, so say the 1990 ordinance, in 2011, it was amended. That 2011 ordinance then moved on to a 2014 ordinance, which amended additional things regarding retiree healthcare and so on for 2015. So what we're simply trying to do here is show everything that was repealed or amended all in one place.
Any questions?
Yeah, just so I'm clear though, that I guess can we speak to the impact of this change as regards our sort of historical implementation versus our intent going forward? So,
Yes.
thank you.
Historically, there were ordinances that were not properly implemented by the city. So moving forward, implementing the ordinances as they should have been will impact some of the retirees. Some will go from paying nothing to paying, $100 a month or whatever they should have been paying since the time they retired. There's a lot of retirees that have gotten years and years of free insurance from the city because the prior ordinances were not implemented as they should have been. So this is simply fixing what should have been implemented years and years ago.
Thank
The
you.
health insurance broker has offered to work with us and the retirees and getting them out the information regarding the changes that are going to be implemented, how those will impact them, et cetera, what options they have. So even if, for instance, say there's some retirees that have dependent care insurance, so like their family or whatever is on the insurance. Technically, if their family should not have been on the insurance based on these ordinances. They should really only be receiving a single person medical hospitalization plan. However, what these ordinances say is that if they want to keep their family on the plan, they will just have to pay the difference. Also, the retiree ordinances say that we will only pay for basic hospitalization and medical insurance plan, meaning the plan that's the cheapest cost in the city. Right now, that's food choice. However, retirees that are on a PPO or an HMO, they can stay on those plans. They would just have to pay the difference in the premium cost. So they're really, we're not taking anything away. We're just implementing what should have been implemented in the first place and kind of and managing it more appropriately from the city's administrative perspective.
Thank you. And just as a quick follow-up, do we have a sense of impact? So, as we correct implementation, do we have a sense of who's going to be impacted and by how much?
We have looked at those numbers. I think we do have an Excel sheet because we looked at that with insurance as well. So that's something that we could share with you.
I think if Mark, I know you've mentioned, I threw out some employees out name, saying a name, let's say retired fireman. What would be the difference cost to him, Mark? That they're paying now to what they would be paying.
So when we're looking at firemen, we have to look at the CBA that they retired on. If we're looking at the fire retirees that were firemen, the CBA states, I've gone back to at least 2011 CBAs, saying that they'll continue to provide health insurance. No changes, basically.
Firemen negotiated a very beneficial plan for their retirees. Their firefighters retirees do not pay.
All right, let me rephrase, an administrative position in the city that's retired.
So in an administrative position, you would have to refer back to the 1990 ordinance, which states that, for example, the Blue Choice plan is, the total monthly premium cost is approximately $605 per month. The city contributes $508 towards an unretired individual employee without spousal or dependent coverage. That employee we would continue to pay that $508, and then say that retiree that's below the age of 65 would then pay the difference. Basically, they would be contributing the same amount that a current employee contributes right now. And we would still be picking up the other costs.
And in the past, it varied on what they would pay, and we're not sure how the decisions were made about what they were currently paying. Some are paying nothing, some are paying a smaller amount, some may even be paying a larger percentage of Medicare.
From a financial impact perspective, we spend approximately $45,000 a month in retiree health insurance. Based off of my calculations and examining it, we should be spending approximately $25,000 to $30,000 per month.
Fair to say then that these changes in implementation are applicable to all employees, both those that are currently eligible and those that will be eligible.
So the only, it varies by CPA. So.
Can you explain? I'm sorry. What's the CBA?
I apologize, collective bargaining agreement.
Oh, duh, okay.
So for public works employees, for example, I believe it was 2003, any public works employer hired after 2003 is not eligible for retiree health insurance. For fire employees, any firefighter hired after 2006 is not eligible for retiree health insurance. In the police collective bargaining agreement, any police officer hired after, I believe, June of 2015 is not eligible for any retiree health insurance.
The sunsets have all been approved by previous councils, more enforcing across the board equitable.
And the 2011 ordinance reference refers to non-union employees. So any non-union employer hired after January 1st, 2012 is not eligible for retirement insurance.
Any other questions? Maria?
I would just like to add, excuse me, that I've been around for most of these changes and they've always been a hot topic. And it is disheartening to hear that the work that was spent on them and it was never implemented. So good
Right there
catch.
with the alderman, I was there too, I can't believe it wasn't, so.
Yeah,
We can't change the past, we're gonna try to correct the future.
Yeah, good catch, so thank you.
Any other questions? Alderman Roll.
Yeah, so I appreciate that we have plans for the insurance broker to give notice and you know, to present options. Do we have a sense of what that timeline looks like? Because I think just giving adequate notice is
Yes.
important.
So in the open enrollment period, usually for employees and retirees is usually towards the end of November, early December for an effective date of January 1st. Now, if there are certain retirees that may not be enrolled in Medicare Part B, there is a certain window of time to allow them to enroll into Part B. Because our insurance, once they hit 65, is always considered to be secondary insurance. So Part A, Part B will pay everything. Then their deductible, they have to pay their deductible. Once they meet the deductible for that secondary insurance plan is when that insurance plan actually starts kicking in. So there is a window of time after January 1 that would allow retirees that are above the age of 65 in order to make sure that they have Part A and B. Make changes.
So we're not waiting for open enrollment to just engage and at least give notice or.
No, so letters will start going out right away. And we send out all the materials. We have a list of all the retirees, whether they live in Blue Island or they live in, Florida. So we send out all of that information to them. And we also provided that to our insurance broker. And they have a Medicare specialist that is there to assist any retirees that may need help enrolling in Part A or Part A.
I believe you're gonna be ready to go once city council votes at the next meeting. Correct. Everybody ready to just throw it in the mail, so we're not wasting any time.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Eric.
Alderman.
My apologies, I thought it was 6:30. And I'm sorry, I missed this discussion, it's private, and I have a question, probably seems obvious, but I want to ask it. You're confident that when we implement this, we're not going to do anything that results in a legitimate lawsuit being triggered by an employee who was not getting what they were promised. I just want to be sure of that.
Yes, we've done some significant research into this, and we're confident that we're not taking away any benefits which would allow recovery from a legitimate lawsuit. That, lawsuit won't be filed and we won't be forced to defend it afterwards.
Thank you.
That was a good question.
Any other questions? All right, moving on. Halloween trick or treating hours. Alderman.
Sorry, Peter. If we do have that Excel spreadsheet or data that just characterizes impact, just as a reminder, if you wouldn't mind sharing before the vote.
And I can also provide you with the cost for each medical plan, effective for 2023.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, please.
Any objections to Halloween or our hours staying 3 to 7? All right. Alderman.
Just wanted, I know that you're aware, and I know the chief is aware that there's some kind of a plan in the works for dealing with this high traffic area that I have to live in.
2 blocks off 127th Street. We already talked about blockading them that day.
Okay, so you'll let us know what you're gonna do. Yeah, thank you.
Moving on, I mentioned my announcement last night, so city clerk, County.
Just, I guess I didn't say last night, but the trunk or treat, or I'm sorry, the Scarecrow building that's scheduled for tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. We postponed it due to the weather, so we will do it Monday night. Around the all of that, I think tonight. All I got.
Thank you, attorney again.
Yeah.
All right. Update, Howard, regarding the hospital plan unit development application. Normally, we don't get anything until it's past planning and zoning, but because of the situation, how massive it would be, we've asked Howard to come and just keep us abreast of the situation.
So the planning and zoning board on Thursday of last week, they heard the application for plan unit development for the former Metro South Hospital building. There were 6 proposed uses. And it was tabled to November 2nd. The major issues is the size of the studio apartments, the cost of the studio and 1-bedroom apartments, a lack of a security plan, visibility, or financing for the project. So we wanted, Lockwood Development Partners to come back with, better ideas or, better, materials or items to answer those types of questions. Anyone want to-
Alderman.
Yeah, thank you, Howard. First, I attended the meeting. And I want to thank you and the board for their considerable time and attention that they give to this matter, because it's important. I just kind of want to say that after watching the presentation, there were a couple of things that struck me as being problems. One was the lack of specificity and the apparent lack of any commitments by partners that I think would be essential to them moving forward, particularly. I saw evidence of financing being in place. They mentioned a number of organizations like Sarah Care,
Senior Lifestyles.
so forth, senior lifestyle. So near as I could tell, there were no agreements or maybe even in-depth discussions with the organizations. I was still, they were fairly vague, and I wondered if it was on purpose. And my overall impression after the meeting was that they're not ready to be, for us to rule. I mean, I guess it would be one of those situations where if you were going to ask the question answer now, it's no. So that's my observation, and my recommendation to them before they come to this body would be maybe to go away and, you know, get these pieces. Maybe we need to come up with some things that we'd like to see, so that frankly we know this is serious. You spent a lot of time, Steve spent a lot of time on it, raising expectations within the community, and I just don't want to be kind of chasing something that's you know, we got a lot of things to do, and this would be a big one. This would be a big effort to handle this. So yeah, that's number one. Number two, and maybe more discouraging from my part, was the proposed size of the units, primarily the 300 square foot studios. That includes the size of the bathroom. And that's an important, not a variance, as I understand it, that we would need to pass an ordinance permitting that. And I won't go into all the detail that they went into, but they feel that there's all kinds of amenities available, whatever. I just can't see that working, especially at the prices they were talking about, like $2,500 doesn't include meals as a starting price. It just seemed kind of unrealistic, and frankly, I don't think right. So I have some serious reservations and concerns about it. Again, thank you for your taking care of it, but I did want to communicate those to you and to the body here.
So I could speak a little bit about Parallel's concerns. So just to backtrack a little bit, Lockwood Development Partners, we're interested in the 6 following uses, as everyone's aware. Senior housing, which is going to be a major component. An urgent care, which is another component. An adult daycare, limited service hotel, a grocer, which is number 5. And number 6 would be a plethora of either medical, regular office, or retail uses. As Mr. Thornwell mentioned, for the senior housing, in their reports, their materials, they said that Senior Lifestyles was going to be the managing company. That night at the board meeting, they said, well, that might be, might not be true. When it came to the urgent care, they were proposing Premier Occupational Health. It looks like that's the one that we're going to use. For the adult daycare, it's going to be Sarah Care. And then for the limited service hotel, which is 23 hotel rooms, those rooms are for people that are visiting their relatives. They want to stay there for a while. So it's not a private hotel or hotel where anyone can rent a room. It's just those who are visiting from out of state or from Illinois that's far away. The grocer, they haven't identified any prospective company or business. Some of the ideas that they've kicked around, Kroger, Mariano's, Jewel, Aldi, Food for Less, Pete's Market, Stop and Shop. So they said a lot of things, but they haven't proposed anything. And in relationship to the other medical commercial spaces, maybe the surgical treatment center, ambulatory surgical treatment center down the road. But that's kind of like out there. Pharmacy, nursing, MRI, other health-related activities. In regards to the proposed apartment sizes, they're proposing the studio apartment 300 square feet. So under chapter 150 of the building code, it says that we need to have an apartment size of at least 450 feet for it to be met by city ordinance. For the one bedroom apartment, they're proposing doubling 2 singles or 2 studios. So that would be plus or minus 600 square feet. For a 1 bedroom, we call it here in Blue Island, they need 650. So both the studio and the 1 bedroom apartments, they're deficient. Now, the reason why under zoning, we have advertised it with legal counsel is just to put it on the PUD that this is deficient in size. But it's not really a variance or an ordinance change through the zoning code because it falls under chapter 150 of the building code. And another thing that we mentioned in the advertising notification process, they want to use the existing signs, which are considered abandoned for the sign code after 6 months. And I, in that meeting, said you should come back with a master sign plan. Now, just to backtrack a little bit, the PUD is a 2-step process. The first step is the preliminary review, which started on Thursday of last week, which in theory will go to the CAL, and in theory will go to the city council for a vote for just preliminary aspect. Then they're going to have to come back for a final. That a final could be a month, a week, a year. It depends on what type of materials that we have to bring back. So, for example, the planning and zoning board would like to see a feasibility study, a market study. What is the feasibility of doing something like this, and it will be profitable? We also like to see some investors lined up for this. The second one is a security plan. Many people in the general public mentioned that security is a big feature. We didn't have one. The third one is a parking circulation plan. Provided the parking study, we said, well, these uses will generate that parking, which is fine. No parking variances are required. But several people in the general public and PZB members have mentioned a circulation plan would be needed. And also a plan that shows, for the senior people living at the building, they could use the garage for a fee. If not, they're going to use the regular parking lot. So this is how things are going to be scaled. For the studio apartment, they're proposing $2,000 for a monthly rent. And for the 1 bedroom, it's going to be $3,000. Under their scheme, those are just basic services. A person could ask for meals to be prepared or for other services, which is kind of similar to an assisted living or continuum of care, but they're going to have to pay extra. Just like I mentioned about the parking, they could park at the garage, but it's going to cost them extra. So it's going to be like a tier system. Now, within the senior housing, they'll have amenities that are, I guess, free. Like a cafeteria, they choose to buy food, a lounge, TV room, exercise room, community rooms and stuff like that. So it's going to be something that's going to be big, but they really haven't identified a lot of the major players. So, that's in a nutshell what was discussed at that meeting. Any other questions?
No, I just want to say that.
Alderman Roll? Yeah, thank you, Howard. So, you've mentioned that among the criteria for tabling was again the proposed size of the units and the cost. Quantitatively, I understand that the proposed size is under our current requirements for single family, and that the cost is deemed high. But qualitatively, what is the board's interest in those things?
So, for example, what Jason Berry, one of the planning board members, said, the density is not an issue here. If you want to add more units, you can. But Jason Berry and other members said, is we like to see more of a plurality studio, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, mix it up, is what they were saying. For that matter. And just to give you a percentage, they're proposing 214 units, right? 201 are gonna be one, studio apartments. And then the other are gonna be 1 bedroom. I did the percentage. Studios will account for 94% of the site. 6% will be 1 bedroom. So this is what I've explained at the board meeting and for the general public to have an understanding. So that's the reason why Jason Berry says density is not an issue. But plus or minus like 107,000 square feet is going to be used for other uses. And he says, well, you could also use that for housing. Or, like the lower levels, if you could, push back a wall, create bigger units. That could, be a possibility. That's why they're gonna rethink about this and come back on November 2nd.
Thank you. And what about the unit cost?
The unit cost, according to their study, is pretty amenable to what they studied in the Chicagoland area, and I was out in Chicago. I think it's very positive, positive in the sense that they're saying they're gonna get this amount here in this area. We're catering to a bigger crowd outside of Blue Island, clearly. They're looking at Chicago, they're looking at Evergreen Park, Morgan Park, for those types of dwellers. They were like doing in their case study, they were looking at incomes of 50,000 or more that would be maybe interested in renting these types of rooms, or the children will help pay for it. So they're looking at not really Blue Island, but the greater Chicagoland area and attracting these people. So that's why I said it's very, very positive in this sense, very rosy, their numbers.
Alderman, Baron Walden, Alderman Carr, Alderman Rita. Alderman Baron Walden.
Yeah, about the costs, I did look at a few facilities, I think it's senior suites. I'm familiar with them because my mother-in-law lives in the senior suites in Joliet. And she has a 1 bedroom unit that's quite, as the studios incidentally in their plan incorporate a microwave and a refrigerator. If I got it right, is that correct? Yes. That's it.
Microwave, refrigerator, and like a kitchen stove. Convection oven, that's the 1 bedroom.
So that was 1 bedroom, yeah, studio did, thing. And, my mother-in-law's apartment, 1 bedroom, nice kitchen, that's about $2,000. So versus a $2,000 studio that doesn't have really anything. I don't know that it's even a good comparison just from what my limited knowledge, so.
Right, so, and this, since these documents were very large in megabytes, and I didn't want to crash people's emails, I provided a hyperlink that the attorney provided for me for the Dropbox. And I would recommend for anyone to look at the document called Snapshot Market Demand Analysis. And some of my comments are these. Way above the market rate for a small unit, way too optimistic, in my opinion. The 50K disposal after taxes is what they're looking at. And, very optimistic for a business plan. They've looked at different studies in different places. Most of the places are larger in square footage. Now, just to give you an idea, the summary page, which is on page 5, speaks about what they're providing. I'm sorry, page 3. So the 1 bedroom, we have to start the 1 bedroom, work our way back. 1 bedroom will have a full kitchen, which includes a refrigerator, freezer, microwave, sink, stove, oven, dishwasher, countertop, and cupboard space. For a studio, it's just going to be the same features as a 1 bedroom, except for a convection oven and no dishwasher. Now, all of these rooms will have bathrooms, showers, grab bars, emergency call system, basic internet, cable, lines. And some of these units will be handicap compliant, not all. And that was some of the concerns that the general public had about this. Why not all of them be handicap accessible? Only a few. So what are some of the proposed amenities? Which I guess everyone can use if you're paying $2,000 or $3,000. The community room, the gym, the park, which is the green space on Western Avenue, the billiard room, game room, business center, library, TV, theater, residential service, office, walking path, laundry room, resort style campus, wellness room, aquatic therapy pool. Services that will cost additional money. I'll read them to you quickly. Wellness checks by visiting practitioner, scheduled transportation, either by shuttle or jet E service, activity programming, parking. Remember I mentioned the parking? In one of your other documents, they kind of like speak more about the parking. Now, service that are gonna cost more money, meals, meal preparation, housekeeping, salon, barber shop services, specialized home care, home services, mental health counseling and otherwise specialized services, outpatient therapies, physical therapy, occupational, speech therapy, maintenance with helping moving or hanging art, rearranging furniture, overhand plant assistant. And then the final one is home health aides with personal care for the adult daycare center and for providing that in the apartment units. So I purposely read this summary to the general public so they had an idea, so people weren't misconstrued with information. I did it purposely so everyone heard the same thing at the same time.
Thank you, Alderman Carr.
Okay, now this is just anecdotal, but I talked to my niece, she lives in downtown Chicago in a 700 square foot studio apartment. She's paying $1,400 a month, and that's downtown Chicago,
Right.
and that's more than twice the space that they're offering. So I think they are high, plus the average retiree right now, their social security payment is somewhere between $1,700 and $1,800 a month. So if they were dependent purely on social security, they wouldn't be able to afford that apartment. And even current retirees at 65 right now, their social security is between $2,300 and $2,500 a month. So again, someone who is dependent strictly on social security would not be able to afford this.
So one of the reasons why they're very adamant about keeping 300 square feet is to keep the hospital rooms, the walls in place. The cost factor, we admitted it. Alderman Reed.
I was going to ask to reiterate that they want them to be for parking as well, and then you read that, right?
Yeah.
I want to make sure I heard that correctly.
Right, so the
In
garage,
addition,
yeah, the garage will be extra because, you know, you're keeping your car under the
right,
inclement weather, but then they can park in the parking lot, I guess, for free, or it's included as part of the price. Yeah, I think I read that in the parking study. So in numerous emails that I sent to the city council, I always kept including the Dropbox. And I always kept showing or listing all the documents that we provided. A landscaping plan, a revised plan survey, the economic or snapshot market analysis for senior, only the senior component, housing. And then they provided us with copies of covenants and restrictions when we were going with the condo units and then when they were going for veteran services. So the landscaping is because of the planned unit development. It gives us permission to ask for additional materials. So since they have a lot of parking lots, I brought it to their attention that these parking lots need to be better maintained and we need to do more landscaping, create landscape islands to retake some of the parkway covered asphalt areas and plant them with grass and trees and stuff like that. Their main focus is always the building. And this does not include the doctor's pavilion building. Just the 7-story building, the garage and the boiler room. And 7 or 8 parking spaces. It depends how you want to count one of them, which is kind of like sub-level. Next to the multi-family on Gregory Street.
I know Alderman continue on, but I just wanted to say I spoke with National with Howard and multiple members of planning and zoning. I did not attend on purpose. I don't want to show any biases. Every concern is being brought here. Every member I've talked to has the same concerns. So I feel they're going to vet this 100% along with Howard. That's why they tabled this. So, and that's the normal process. I'm very good faith that our Chairman Johnson and other members have put a lot of thought into this. It's not gone on a minor scale. They put a lot of thought into this. And that's why 3 hours was enough. And they're going to meet again about it. So I just wanted to emphasize that the process is still with them. And I believe a lot of these concerns will be addressed by them before it comes to our table. And hopefully they are addressed before they come to our table. And that's the purpose of that committee. So I just want to make that known that we're pretty much all on the same page here. I haven't heard anybody, members of the planning and zoning or this council that has brought up anything that hasn't heard it brought up by members of the board. Alderman Roll, sorry, man.
Yeah, thank you. I guess just more of a comment than a question that, well, I myself personally would have some questions as regards to the sort of viability of their proposed cost model. I would like to see us spend a bit more time understanding their intent to invest in that building and less assessing their business model. If their intent is to invest in this building and they've put together a very poor pricing model, that's still, to my mind, a better scenario than the one we have right now. So it's just my 1.5 cents.
If I could just, I do agree with Alderman Roll. And I think that to me, the important thing at this point, and I agree that the discussion about what they're going to do is not so important as demonstrating to us that they actually can do something.
So 2 things I'd like to chime in on. The first part is the actual size of the unit. So since that falls under the building code, chapter 150, down the road, someone's gonna have to make a decision. Either the city on behalf of the developer or the developer themselves, either to revise the existing chapter section that deals with that, or apply for a one-time waiver on the emphasis that this is an existing building, used to be a former hospital. So this doesn't open us up to other developers saying, well, they did it, we could do it too. But that's gonna go through a public process. The city council is gonna have to be involved in either approving or disapproving such a change to the ordinance or for a waiver. At this point, we're not there yet. They just want to go through this planning unit development. And then the second part is, let's say November 2nd happens and they satisfy the planning and zoning board and they send it to you guys. Then at the committee of the whole and at the city ordinance, we could pause and say, well, until we're not against the general idea or the big picture idea, but until you have more information, you guys can't move on voting on a preliminary plan that kind of ties the city with the proposed 6 uses and all of that. Another thing that I hear from the public and I hear rumblings about, let's say the senior housing component doesn't work, what happens? They're going to have to come back to us for an amended PUD plan if they're going to change it to regular apartments or what have you. So they're tied to this. What they're proposing is what they're tied.
Any other questions? Thank you, Howard.
So the next meeting is November 2nd.
November 2nd,
7:00.
7 p.m.
All right. Mark, you got anything else from administration? Aldermanic announcements, comments, concerns, questions, announcements? Seeing none, we don't have executive, we covered it last night. So we need a motion to adjourn. Motion by Alderman Rivas, second by Alderman Trammell, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?